Come on up. Okay, we just, so Senator Ron Johnson and I just had the opportunity to meet with Spencer Pratt to talk about what happened in the Pacific Palisades wildfire. So last month I had the opportunity to go out to the Pacific Palisades and take a tour of the area with Spencer Pratt. As you know, Spencer's somebody that had success in TV, has a successful podcast, and has a significant following, along with his wife. But what was fascinating to me is just to see the unbelievable devastation. Just homes, street after street after street of homes, just everything's gone. And you see the remnants of a house, but there's nothing else there. There's no kids playing. There's almost zero reconstruction. And in Florida, you know, we put a lot of effort into preventing wildfires. We have a research group called Tall Timbers. So as a general rule, we have not had the wildfires that California has dealt with. And as you probably know, a lot of the wildfires are caused by the National Forest not doing prescribed burns. But we've had hurricanes. And so what you learn with a hurricane is you prepare. You say, how do I make sure no one dies? How do I do everything I can to keep everybody alive? How do we, reduce property destruction? And then you do it up until the time it happens, and then you work your tail off to get people back in their homes, their businesses reopened, all these things. If you go through the Palisades, like nothing's happening. I think I saw one house being rebuilt. We went street after street. I think I saw one house being rebuilt. That was it. So what I promised to Spencer is that we would do an investigation to find out exactly what happened. Now here's the purpose of this. One, why did it happen? Why was it not preventable? Okay. How do we help the victims? Now you can't help the families of the 12 people that lost their lives, but how do you help the victims get restarted? Which is, and then how do you make sure this doesn't happen again? I don't want wildfires in my state. I don't want wildfires anywhere across the country. I don't want anybody to lose their life. I don't want anybody to lose their homes. So the whole purpose of this investigation is that we're gonna find out why it happened. We're going to find out how do we help the people get restarted, and how do we make sure this never happens again. And it seems like, for California, we're heading into the dry season again, so hopefully this does not happen this year. I want to thank Spencer for being so vocal about this. I tell people, if you want better government, be vocal. If you want this to never happen again, somebody's got to be vocal about it. I want to thank Senator Ron Johnson for being willing to do an investigation through the PSI subcommittee of Homeland Security, because we're going to make sure we're going to get answers, and we're going to do everything we can to help the victims, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure this doesn't happen again. So let me turn it over to Senator Ron Johnson.
Well, thank you, Rick. I want to really commend Senator Scott and Spencer here for their leadership on this issue. Spencer is one of the victims. Hundreds of thousands, 12 dead, 7,000 structures destroyed, and the fact that Rick was a governor of a state that he responded to a number of horrible hurricanes, successfully saved a lot of lives. Understands the cleanup. You couldn't have a better person here in Congress, really taking the lead on this particular investigation. As chairman of the Permanent Subcommittee Investigations, I want to utilize the subcommittee the way it's always been utilized to uncover and expose the truth. And there's nothing political about this. I think of all the things I heard in our meeting with Spencer before this conference here, a couple $100,000 brush clearing, foliage clearing effort might have prevented this. So this isn't just about investigating what happened with Pacific Palisades. This is about primarily preventing it in the future. And there's some pretty simple things pretty low-cost things that could prevent the deaths and prevent literally billions of dollars worth of damage. And that's really the purpose of this thing. Let's find out what happened. Let's expose the truth. No politics involved in this at all. This is about exposing the truth to prevent future tragedies. But turn it back over to you or to Spencer.
Yeah, I'm just so grateful for you gentlemen, because the community, since the day the fire started, were in shock. They were like, how is this possible? How is the fire coming into our town, burning down schools? And I know that nobody feels safe for this not to happen again. And I think that's the most important part of this investigation, is that my kids can have a house one day that they don't need to worry about ever burning down. And I feel like this is going to be so powerful for all the United States, because there shouldn't be disasters that are preventable. Obviously, hurricanes in your state, you can't prevent, they come, tornadoes, but this fire, we knew California, as our governor would say, is always in fire season. So we need to figure out how to prevent houses and senior citizens from burning alive. And I mean, I could go on forever, but thank you both. And I think everyone's going to be shocked to how simple there are things that could have stopped this. Yesterday in the airport, when I landed, a dozer operator and his wife came up to me, and he was from LA County, and I asked him, I said, what could have stopped this? Like, he drives the dozers. I'm like, how much would it have cost? And he said, probably about $200,000 could have cleared a fire line around the Palisades. He said, yeah, it wouldn't have maybe prevented a complete fire, but he's like, it would have stopped the fire from eating and digging in, and would have given us some time. So for $200,000, maybe 12 people are still alive, $50 billion in homes are still there. And to me, if we get that out of this investigation, we figure out, okay, we should be doing that in California, it'll be at least something for the victims. So thank you.
All right, we can answer any questions anybody has. Yes.
Hi, I'm Bill Pollack from Bright Guard News. I'm also a Palisades resident, and my home survived, but the neighborhood around me was destroyed, as well as the school next door to my house. When President Trump came to the Palisades, I asked him whether he would take a page out of the 9/11 playbook and use a special master to oversee federal funds for fire aid, given that so much money is wasted. People have no confidence in how California is going to spend the money. There have been scandals around the fire aid fundraiser. Would you consider the 1 or 2 paragraphs that it would take in legislation to establish an office with a special master to oversee fire funding for California?
Yeah, I'll look at that. I mean, I was not part of when President Trump went out there, but what I've always learned, I'm a business guy, so what you learn when there's a problem, you put somebody in charge, right? One thing we're doing is we've been asking for information that we just took the last 10 years of different federal agencies and what money has gone out there, and try to figure out where it's gone. To see, is the money actually gone for wildfire prevention and suppression, things like that. So but yeah, I'll look at that. I don't know. Have you ever seen it? I've never been involved in a special master.
Another follow-up question. The insurance market in California, a lot of people lost their insurance. Is there anything the federal government can do to make those people whole?
We're going to find out. We're going to get. Spencer brought up the fact that right before the fire happened, a lot of people's insurance was canceled. Which, I mean, like in Florida, you can't do that. You can't cancel somebody's insurance right before a disaster. I mean, if you don't pay your bills, right? So I don't. That's shocking to me that could happen. We're going to find out why that happened, and that doesn't make any sense. That somebody could write when you're in the middle of a wildfire season and your insurance gets canceled. And so you can't get other insurance probably at the time. And by the way, if you have as you know, if you have a mortgage and you don't have insurance, your mortgage is called too. So, yeah. Sir, you had a question?
Hi, I'm Andy Picone with E&E News. I'm curious about the scope of this investigation. Senator Johnson mentioned this is not a political thing. Are you guys going to be looking at what California did wrong, what democratic policies led to this, or is it a broader thing about how to prevent wildfires more generally and how to what kinds of factors contribute to wildfires?
So the goal is we're gonna find out why it happened, what could have happened to prevent it. That's the big thing here. So because we don't ever want this to happen again, right? And then on top of that, how can we help the victims? So I'll give you a story about Florida. After a hurricane, and by the way, hurricane response, like any disaster response, it starts with you, right? It starts with your local government, then your state government, and then your federal government. Federal government is generally a check writer, and they're not a first responder. There's a misnomer what FEMA does. They write checks. They don't have a bunch of people show up to stop a hurricane or something. But we're gonna find out, exactly, the whole process, and to try to make sure this doesn't happen again. And I think it's going to be good for Florida. It'll be good for anywhere in the country. So historically our biggest risk in Florida is national forests, because we have a really good prescribed burn program for our state lands. The federal government historically has not. Yes.
Connor Brody from the New York Times. As I'm sure you know, there was a whole bunch of fires in Los Angeles County over that period. Horrible couple of weeks. One of them, the Eden Fire, was tremendously destructive outside of LA City, LA County. Why are you not expanding the scope of your investigation into that fire?
We might. We're going to start with this. So, and we'll just let the facts where they take us where they are.
But so for right now, it is limited to the Palisades fire.
Well, part of it is if you follow some of the letters we've already asked, it's to all the money, like all the money goes to California. But we're going to start with to understand what happened at the Palisades, and then we'll look at others as we have time.
Can I ask a follow-up question? Have you reached out to the California delegation or any state and local officials, the people who you just said will?
We're starting to ask questions. We're starting to get ask questions. I also have a bill that would. One thing historically your federal government has done is give additional tax relief to people that are victims of national disasters, and so I have a bill to expand that, and so I'll need support for that. We got that done with regard to the disasters in 24 and 25, and I worked through. It was a bipartisan effort in the House and the Senate. And we got that done.
Is there a way to do that more broadly, like for disasters generally, to provide that, to make sure that tax relief is there? Or do you have to do it kind of year by year?
So, I've since forever that I know of, it's always been done disaster by disaster, or year by year, disaster by disaster. So the last one I think we got done was for 24 and 25, and then in the bill got done, the big beautiful bill. There was some additional relief, but not enough, and so this would take us through. My bill would take us through 26. So, and it's not just focused on California; it's focused on the whole country.
On social media, you said you look forward to Governor Gavin Newsom's cooperation. What form do you think that would take?
So I'm appreciative that he said he's going to cooperate. I hope everybody cooperates. Is that as we ask for information, they disclose it. I'm always been frustrated with the government. I'm a business guy by background, and my experience with the government is it's not very transparent, and there's a lack of accountability. So I hope everybody that we are asking questions from is very transparent and gives us all the information. It's part of. Ron's been doing this. He was the chair of Homeland Security, and he's the chair of PSI. He's been going through this process of other investigations, trying to get information. And as we all know, sometimes your government is not as transparent as they should be.
Let me just add. One of the reasons we'll do it through the permanent subcommittee investigation is we have subpoena power. And I have unilateral subpoena authority. We don't want to use it, and we hope we don't have to. So, I'm hoping everybody will cooperate, and again, it's a good sign that Governor Newsom is willing to do so, and that's the best way of doing it. But if they don't, you've always got that backstop of compelling testimony, compelling documents, and we'll do that if we have to. But I don't think we'll have to, quite honestly.
Is there any sense that he is jeopardizing funding for fire aid or fire victims with his very confrontational approach with the administration?
So, that's a decision he gets to make. So I was a governor for 8 years. My goal was to create good relationships with local government and federal government because especially after a disaster, it's a team event. there's a variety of federal programs, especially through FEMA and especially through SBA, but there's a lot of others. So I think I always tell everybody it's better to try to build a relationship with somebody to get something done. So, but everybody gets to, I'm not going to suggest somebody's politics. It's their decision.
And he says that it's the federal government's job to manage forests on federal land. He's been saying for weeks that the federal government's doing a bad job of managing federal forests in California and that the state has to step in. What is the story with forest land in California?
Well, we're going to find out. We'll find out, and if there's something, and what we're going to do is we're going to do everything we can to get the facts, put the facts out there, and if there's change that needs to happen, it's going to happen, whether it happens at the local level, the state level, or federal level.
Can I respond to that?
Yep.
Well, with the Palisades fire, it was the state park, Topanga State Park, that had a reignition from January 1st. So obviously we're going to look into all of California's wildfires, but specifically what burned down the Pacific Palisades was Gavin Newsom's Topanga State Park.
Time for probably one more.
Anybody else? All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.